Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we are reviewing all of my Goodreads entries. Now, this is something that I saw Jack Edwards do, and I was very inspired by it because I thought it was a really fun video. It was a very interesting idea. It's something that I haven't done before. I would love to dive back into my Goodreads account and see what I've read, see if the ratings I gave it still holds up or not, and if I changed my mind on anything. Goodreads hasn't really changed a lot in the past years. But I do have a separate folder for the books that I've read and the books that are abandoned. And I think a good place to start with this would be to go and sift through my abandoned list, and then we could go into the books that I've read. So right at the top, we have Midnight Sun. This book I wrote, I could not for the life of me finish this book. God help us all, amen. And I stand by it. It was awful. I remember reading the first Twilight when I was probably 13, 14, and I actually genuinely enjoyed it. But Midnight Sun, train wreck, not interesting at all. The second one I have is Preludes and Nocturnes, the first Sandman graphic novel by Neil Gaiman. I don't remember why I didn't finish it. It probably was because I borrowed it from the library and I had to return it. Nothing against Neil Gaiman. I think he's a prolific writer. I love him to death. And this has nothing to do with, it was just logistically, I couldn't finish it. Norwegian Wood. Now, Murakami and I have a relationship that is toxic at least, and plain old, murderous at best. I don't think he's a good writer. I don't think he's even profoundly interesting. He has interesting ideas, but they're not executed half as well as they should be. Norwegian Wood was the first one that I read by Murakami. I thought it was bland. That's a word that I would use often for his writing. Very bland. High Fidelity. I don't remember why I didn't finish High Fidelity by Nick Hornby, so I can't comment on that. Steve Jobs' Biography by Walter Isaacson. I actually read about 70% of it, and I kind of got the idea. I don't know why I have this in my abandoned section, because I technically did abandon it, but I got the idea. Like, I was really excited with the journey of Steve Jobs making it big, and then after that I was kind of left a little uninterested. The Road, I read like 3 pages. I didn't finish it, but it's on my TBR. 19 Minutes by Judy Picalt. I honestly don't even remember why I didn't finish this book. I'm not a fan of Jody. I haven't really read a book that has really stuck with me, so maybe that's why. And the last one is The Light Between Oceans, which was horrendous. Absolute train wreck, a snooze fest, boring, and not remotely interesting. So that had to go. I think I read like 30% of it before it was just gone. Now, on to my read section. And the number one book that I see immediately is the one that I finished last night, which is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami, which I will do a complete video on because I have a lot of thoughts on this. But if I were to describe it in one word, disappointing. The second book that I finished, reread actually recently, was Lightning Thief by Percy Jackson. And if you follow me on TikTok, I made a few TikToks about Percy Jackson. I think the reread was exciting. It was joyful. It reminded me of when I was a reader back in like grade 10. It was just an amazing experience. I hadn't reread it in a very long time. I reread Harry Potter from time to time, but I hadn't done Percy Jackson in a while, so that was very entertaining. The third one I have recently read is my own poetry collection, A Dream Is All I Need to Get By. I think it's pretty good. I think it's the best work that I've ever done, best work I've put out. If you guys want to check it out, the links are in the description below. Life of Pi, I think it's one of the most seminal books that I've ever read. It's completely changed me as a reader, as a writer. It's led me towards becoming a better reader, becoming a better writer, because I now juxtapose everything with Life of Pi. I think it's a 5 out of 5 star book. Love it. David and Goliath was great. I remember enjoying it a lot. I gave it 4 stars, which means that I did enjoy it. Malcolm Gladwell is a great writer in my opinion, just because the way that he writes nonfiction is very easily consumable. So 4 out of 5, it's pretty good. Chronicles Volume 1, big Bob Dylan fan, loved it. Welcome to My Panic, I actually heard it on Audible. It was also really good. I don't remember a lot from it, so I guess it wasn't that memorable, but I gave it 4 out of 5, which means that, I had a good time. The War of Art was amazing. It reminded me why I need to keep doing what I do and how to do that. I really suggest people who are any type of creatives to check this book out. Art of War, again, I read it for one of the courses at university. It was good. Poetry of Walt Whitman. I don't know why I didn't rate this book, but I love Walt Whitman. I think he's great. So I'm pretty sure that I would have rated this probably 5. The Time Machine, brilliant. It was one of my first H.G. Wells books. It was a really easy read. 5 out of 5. I loved it. 15 Dogs got me out of my reading slump. It was everything that I needed. I remember it being like an adult version of Percy Jackson because of all of the Greek god references and Apollo actually being in the story. World War Z was good. I remember reading it for high school for a course, 4 out of 5. I don't remember much of it, but I remember it was good. Now, Little Women, I gave it 3.5 out of 5. It was a good novel, very well written and very well realized. That means that I had a good time with it, but it didn't really exceed expectations. It was just like, okay, you're good. This is good. I enjoyed it. Every chapter of the book had a lesson, and that became really repetitive for me. Not that the lessons were bad. It was just that I was expecting, oh, this whole chapter is here because the girls have to learn this lesson or that lesson, and that kind of got repetitive for me. Giving Tree, all-time fave, 5 out of 5. My kids are going to read this book. Now, The Post Office by Charles Bukowski. That was the first Bukowski book I ever read. I gave it 4 out of 5. I was knocked out. It's a short book. I think I finished it in 2 sittings, and the ending left me appalled. I didn't know you could do that with a book. It's not a wildly entertaining ending, but I just didn't know that it was possible to finish a book like that. And if those who've read it know what I'm talking about, it's great. I also reviewed it on my channel, so you can check it out. I also I was rereading Harry Potter last year, and The Goblet of Fire, 5 out of 5. I totally forgot how amazing that book was. When I reread it, I was like, this is pristine, and why J.K. Rowling is a prolific writer. I also recently finished the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The trilogy as a whole, I would probably give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's not a 5 out of 5 for me. It does drag a little bit, but if you're into that kind of writing, which I found myself to be in the beginning of the pandemic, then I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Ocean at the End of the Lane knocked me out. Brilliant, dark, sophisticated writing. This is my first Neil Gaiman as well, and I was shocked at how invested I was. Beautiful book, short book, highly recommend it. Now, The Godfather was recommended to me by a really close friend of mine. I was not expecting it to be this amazing. I know the movies hold a certain prestige among movie fans and cinephiles, but the book is extremely well written as well, and I highly recommend it. 5 out of 5. Riding the Elephant, a memoir of altercations, humiliations, and hallucinations by Craig Ferguson. I am a huge Craig Ferguson fan. I'm a huge late night fan. I love Craig Ferguson. I think he changed the format for the better as much as he could, sort of in the vein of Conan O'Brien. His memoir was amazing. Loved it. 5 out of 5. I also heard it in audio form. He was narrating it, which is always a plus. I read Brother Because Brother by David Charindi. I think it won Canada Reads. Canada Reads is a competition held in Canada where celebrities sort of have a book off. They fight for their book, and every day one book is eliminated, and it goes on for a week until the 5th book is chosen, and that's the book of the year. I remember it being absolutely mesmerizing. There was a lot of talk about race in that movie, class differences, and it was set in Toronto, where I live, so it was lovely to see my city sort of represented in literary form. Rapture by Carol Ann Duffy is a poetry collection that I got from Edinburgh. Absolutely love it. Carol Ann Duffy is one of my favorite poets, and I highly recommend that people check her out. She's a romantic. She writes beautiful tragedies in her poetry, and she's very accessible, so she's great. 5 out of 5. Walk to Remember, 4 out of 5. I remember reading it in one straight sitting. Broke my heart. Absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. High Mountains of Portugal, again, another Jan Martel book. I gave it 4 out of 5. It's beautiful. It's everything you expect from Jan. It has animals in it, which he's fond of, apparently. And it's just a great 3-part, 3-act structure. And I really enjoyed it. I remember really enjoying it. Now, Khaled Hosseini is one of my favorite authors of all time. He has the same skin color as me. He has a similar background as me. We're both immigrants. We both wanted to be writers. I feel like I'm at the start of that journey. He's sort of towards the middle end of it. Thousand Splendid Suns absolutely broke me in half, and I gave it 4 out of 5 because I don't like crying that much in books. Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. I am a huge Springsteen fan. Springsteen sort of defines my taste in music. He defines my taste in life now. His memoir was amazing. 5 out of 5. I read it first and then I heard it on audiobook the second time. It holds up. It's beautiful. Skipping the Harry Potters because I reread them. 5 out of 5 for all of them. My favorite Harry Potter book is Prisoner of Azkaban. There's nothing better than that book. I think that's where the series peaked. There have been peaks after that, but never as high. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. 4 out of 5. Beautiful book. I don't remember it that well. I read it like a long time ago. I remember being very invested and very enthralled by it. But if you ask me what it was about right now, something about the French Revolution, but I have to reread it to really, give you proper detail. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. 4 out of 5. It inspired my novel that I'm writing currently. The situation that goes on in that book is highly reminiscent of what I'm trying to find and what I'm trying to write in my novel. So very influential for me. Sea Prayer was a short story by Khaled Hosseini. 5 out of 5. It's about refugees. It's beautifully illustrated. I highly recommend you guys check it out. The Offshore Pirate by F. Scott Fitzgerald. It was a short story, about 30 pages. I love F. Scott Fitzgerald. He's on the Mount Rushmore of writers for me. He's great. I love everything he's ever written. 5 out of 5. It by Stephen King scared the bejesus out of me. 4 out of 5. It's great. Like, what more can you say? If you have a weak heart, don't read it. There's a lot of graphic content in there, so I would not recommend this for everyone. But if you want to check it out, I highly recommend. The Snowman by Joe Nesbo. I remember this was my first Joe Nesbo book. I read it when the movie was coming out. It was okay. I wasn't very invested, but I heard that he's really good, so I might check out the Harry Hole series again. 3 out of 5. Diamond as Big as the Ritz by F. Scott Fitzgerald. 4 out of 5. Always amazing to read him. He's great. Nothing more to say about that. The next book, though, for Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. That's one where I was like, I remember I was in a reading slump, and it got me out of my reading slump because of how beautifully it was written. I think I finished it in 2 nights as well. I love when I can do that with a novel. Beautifully written, tragic, post-apocalyptic, dystopian. I was just very, very scared reading it because of how much I was relating to it in real time. And I was like, is this where we're headed? It's one of those books, and highly recommend it. Ray Bradbury's great. Recovery, Freedom from Our Addictions, 4 out of 5. I remember Russell Brand was really pushing this book when it came out. It really helped me with some of my stuff. I have an addictive personality per se, but not really into any specific addictions. But it just gave me lots of perspective on how to deal with certain things, especially phone addiction. So after that, we got Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This was one that I had to drag to finish. The movie was amazing. That's why I was inspired to read the book. I give it a 3 out of 5. There was a lot of 80s pop references that was just going, I don't know what they're talking about. It was okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of other people liked it because it's one of the, top selling books of the recent past, but not for me. A Man Called Ove. Another brilliant book. I love Frederick Bachman's writing. I'm actually reading Anxious People as we speak. Really excited to finish that. It's beautiful. The way he writes is amazing. Now, this is a foreign writer that writes in a different language, whose translations are also amazing, who knows how to write prose, who knows how to engage his listeners. Murakami, not that. Here comes my own collection again, A Rush to the Stars. This was the first collection I ever wrote of poetry. It's also available below in the description if you guys want to check it out. It's very near and dear to me and very melancholic and sad and angsty, and if that's what you're into, then you should definitely check it out. The Elephants in My Backyard, a memoir by Rajiv Surendra. I remember this was the guy who was almost cast in the Life of Pi movie, and it was his memoir. I don't remember a lot about it. I gave it 3 out of 5, which is kind of where I feel like it would have landed, being not as memorable as I would hope for it to be. Snows of Kilimanjaro and Other Stories, Ernest Hemingway's collection of short stories. This had a huge impact on me when I was beginning to write. Everybody, I feel like, has a moment where they're trying to write like Hemingway, and when I was reading this book or these collections, that was me. I wanted to write like him. I wanted to phrase sentences like him. It was amazing, very impactful, very well written. He's What more can you say? It's Ernest Hemingway. Like he's the GOAT. Now we're getting into like school territory, high school territory. I feel like I don't really update a lot of my Goodreads books, so there's a lot of lapses in time between. But Romeo and Juliet, Kite Runner, these books I read in high school, 4 out of 5 for both of them. They're classics. Like, what more can I say? Pakistan, A Personal History. I was really into Imran Khan in like late high school, so that's why I read this. I gave it 5 out of 5. I remember it being really impactful for me. It was good. I loved the way that he intertwined his life and Pakistan's history sort of together. It was a nice blend of the two. I've never really read a memoir like that before. Controversially Yours, an autobiography by Shoaib Akhtar. If you know me at all, you know how big of a cricket fan I am, and I love cricket and I love Shoaib, and it was 5 out of 5 for me. Robert Frost poetry. I got a thick book of Robert Frost poetry, which is one of my prized possessions. It has his entire catalog in it. 5 out of 5. Hands down the poet that inspired me the most to write poetry. Hamlet, Catcher in the Rye, high school books, 5 out of 5. Catcher in the Rye actually has a funny story. I remember not liking it before, and then I shifted into loving it after I reread it the second time. So I have a few books that do that to me, where I don't like them in the beginning, but then there comes a point in your life where it becomes relatable and you just are like, wow, where was this book before? So Catcher in the Rye was one of those for me. Dreams from My Father, A Story of Race and Inheritance by Barack Obama. I didn't know Barack Obama was going to be such an amazing writer until I read this book. 5 out of 5. He sucked me into his story. I was hooked. A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Beautiful book. This is one of my first books I read about war, and it actually kind of scarred me. I had to reread, kind of like restudy, re-educate myself on war and how that sort of operates, and this book was really instrumental in that. I actually don't remember this book at all, The Universe in Your Hand by Christophe Gilford. I may have read this. I mean, it says that I've read this and I gave it 4 out of 5, but this is more than 5 years ago. I have no recollection of reading this. Now, Of Mice and Men I remember reading, and I read it 3 times, which is how powerful this book was. It absolutely tore me apart. 90-page books. Huge John Steinbeck fan after that. Like, it's just been a huge journey reading this and experiencing Steinbeck's work after that. It's a privilege, honestly. Another Stephen King book, which is not a horror book. 11/22/63. It had a really good concept. I gave it 4 out of 5. I feel like it dragged a little bit in the middle, and Stephen King does have a knack for sort of going on like side quests, which have nothing to do with the main quest. And I feel like I remember there was a lot of that in this book, but nonetheless, it was a great read. The ending was wild, I remember. Yeah, I would recommend it. Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Now, I remember crying massively in this book, which is probably why I gave it 4 out of 5. It's probably higher now if I had to reread it, because I remember this being really impactful to me and sort of feeling grief through literature for the first time, and damn, it was moving. Time Traveler's Wife, I remember giving it 3 out of 5. Again, a lot of meandering. I don't remember it at all, if I'm being honest. I think I was going through like an emo boy phase at that time. Yeah, that's why I checked this one out. Harry Potter, 5 out of 5, always. Bazaar of Bad Dreams, 4 out of 5. Now, we're diving into the John Green territory of my Goodreads, where I had a huge John Green phase. Looking for Alaska, I gave 4 out of 5. I recently reread it, and I would give it a 5 out of 5. That book is immaculately, had a huge impression on me, and there's no way that I can rank it less than 5. I think this is John Green's best work. If he never wrote another book after this, it would be a shame, because A Fault in Our Stars is also very good, but this is like top tier John Green. Check it out. Perks of Being a Wallflower is 4 out of 5. I remember watching the movie and then reading the book and just being completely blown away. I remember Steven Chbosky also directed the movie, and I'm glad that he was able to do that, because wow. Twilight I gave 2 out of 5. I'm pretty sure I did that out of spite. I don't think I would give it 2 out of 5 now. I think I would give Twilight probably like 3.5. It's not bad. The first one is pretty good. It gets worse consecutively after that, but the first one I will defend. It was pretty good. The Fault in Our Stars, 4 out of 5. What am I going to say? The Fault in Our Stars. Titan's Curse, Harry Potter, Angels and Demons, Hunger Games were all 4 stars. I don't remember reading them. I remember rereading Harry Potter recently because I was on a binge and I had nothing else to do, and Harry Potter just stands out. The 6th one I remember being extremely fun because I feel like the characters were like getting older and they were having like teenage problems, which are always interesting, especially in the wizarding world. I love to see that. I want to talk about The Great Gatsby and then finish on it, which I gave 4 out of 5. The Great Gatsby is one of my favorite novels of all time, probably top number 1. I want to be a writer so bad because of that novel. I read it and I was like, I didn't know that you could string words in that order, in that fashion, and come up with these many pages and make me feel the way that it did. 5 out of 5. I give it 4, I remember, but now that I have reread it multiple times, I think it's the book that I've reread the most. It's the best. It's left the most impactful reading experience to me ever. So 5 out of 5 for The Great Gatsby. Thank you guys for sticking to the end of this video. If you're here, I love you. I appreciate you. This video is extremely long, I understand that, but it was something I really wanted to do. And it was extremely fun revisiting everything that I have sort of read. It took me down memory lane, and I wanted to thank Jack Edwards for introducing this concept on YouTube. If you guys want to check out more stuff that I have, you can check the description down below. Please remember to like, subscribe, stick around to the end, and if you guys think that this video is fun, if you guys want me to do more videos like this, leave a comment below. Let's start a discourse. I love talking to people. I love chatting to people. Slide into my DMs, slide into my Twitters. I'd love to see you there. And until the next video, see you guys.